Okay, Venus?
Okay, Steve.
Right. Let's go.
Hi folks, and welcome to an all-new episode of Backlot Spaceport. I know, it's been a while, but this is actually a new segment called Build and Fly. Now, even though this is about Space City, or in this case, Space City 2.0, the Build and Fly will be the XL5 itself, the Monsters of Motion kit, which will launch at the end of this show, so stick with us. First of all, welcome to headquarters. This is the revolving building that never understood the revolving, but it did look good on television. Let me show you a couple of highlights. Of course, that was Commander Zero's desk. We all know that one. Over here, Lieutenant 90's desk. Now, Lieutenant 90 struggled with his boss. I'm sure we've all been through that. But he always managed to step up to the plate and be the office hero. I always liked him. Over here, this is pretty cool. This is the sector map. Now, this is where Commander Zero would look at the galaxy sectors and decide, who's the closest to the particular assignment or action? Usually, it was Steve Zodiac and Fireball XL5. Now, the problem is when your control tower is spinning and you're trying to keep an eye on launching and returning spaceships, it's very difficult because they all just keep going to the left. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this segment. But now, let's give you a tour of Space City 2.0 and tell you a little backstory on how it was created and why. For this segment, we're going to need the help of the XL5, specifically the navigational bay. Now this is where Professor Maddox would give Steve Zodiac those complicated navigational math formulas to get him from one place to the other. But most important, this room has what's called the astroscope. Now this thing is not only an amazing telescope into the distant galaxies around the ship, but it also has a color television set. Now, most people don't realize that Professor Maddox invented color television. A famous television electronics company stole the patent. I'm not going to mention any names, of course. Professor Maddox was a very kind man and a very gentle man, never pursued them legally, never said a cross word except for one thing. I think the quote was, "It's just a bunch of tooties." And welcome to the astroscope. Now with this device, I'm going to be able to show you exactly how Space City 2.0 was constructed. Space City 2.0, interestingly enough, began with my obsession of owning the MPC Fireball XL5 playset from the 1960s. I decided to pursue it one piece at a time because I'm sure everyone on this page realizes just how expensive that thing is. I started with the main office building. Just like you guys, I've always loved it, and I thought if I could get my hands on one of those, maybe I could upgrade the construction a bit and make it look a little nicer. Well, in doing so, you start realizing that the proportions are a little bit off, and it could be better here, and it could be a little bit longer there. And so eventually I decided to scrap that and create my own structure. Eventually deciding on this, testing it with the turntable to make sure that that worked, and then I began to work on the artwork for the details. Next, I completed the accompanying buildings on either side. Now it's starting to take shape. Next, I completed the bases for not only the office complex, but the famous Area 1. We're all familiar with that piece of property. Some of the most spectacular landings and crashes happened there. Next, it was time to design the launch rail. Now, we all know what it looks like, and as big a fan as I am of the design, I always thought it was a little plain. So I added some more fuel canisters and electrical systems, and just kind of made it a little bit more detailed. And now, it's really starting to come together. Then I stepped back and looked at the design and thought, where would Space City go in the future? Well, you would probably want it to be a little bit more urban. So I added a few more parking areas, some foliage, and even an observatory. Next, it was time to decide what Fireball model kit would I use. Well, Most of the garage kits are expensive, and some are better than others, and I eventually decided on the Monsters in Motion kit. Now, most resin kits like this are a little difficult to work with, but if you're a model maker and you enjoy a challenge, this was a great kit. The sculpt on it is excellent, and it gave me an opportunity to add a few more embellishments of my own. I was very happy with it. I completed the Space City diorama of my dreams. As some of you may know, I wound up taking it to Wonderfest 2023, where I won the Silver Award. I was honored considering the competition that I was up against. Before we continue, I wanted to show you a couple of details. Some very famous people visited Space City 2.0. First and foremost, Commander Ed Straker, seen here at the Guard Shack. Not far away, the Shadow Mobile, one of the Thunderbird radio trucks, and of course, Mike Mercury's supercar. In the last parking lot, one of the cars from Captain Scarlet, Paul Foster's Lavender sports car, and of course, the Fab One. Now you may be wondering, why such a heavy shadow presence? Well, very simple. They're in charge of security for Space City 2.0 because let's face it, you never know what kind of bad guy is going to want to visit planet Earth.
Tell the interceptors to explode a missile in Area Blue.
Prepare forward interceptors.
Oh, one more thing. I almost forgot. I did eventually acquire a complete MPC Fireball XL5 playset. And if you've ever seen this thing, it is extraordinary. All of the mechanisms work, especially the launch system. Absolutely amazing. And it still works to this day. A testament to how well toys were manufactured in the 60s. At this point, I have to give a shout out to my friend Graham Walker over at toyreplicas.com. If you guys are looking for miniatures from XL5, if you're upgrading a classic toy, or most important, if you're missing pieces and you need some replacement parts, Mr. Walker is an amazing artist who creates these things with exacting care. So I not only needed replacement parts, but I was completely knocked out by his decal package for the spaceship. This thing is amazing. I remember the original stickers that came with the toy were far less than impressive. This looks like a motion picture miniature. Not only is the decal sheet impressive, look at the brochure with the instructions. Unbelievable. So toyreplicas.com, go check him out. He's got great stuff, and it'll make your Fireball look like it flew right out of the television set. And now it's time to head for Fireball Jr., with a couple of stops along the way. Of course, you'll recognize the laboratory of Dr. Venus. Now, Dr. Venus is an amazingly talented doctor of space medicine. Within these walls, she's conjured up all sorts of serums that have saved the lives of millions. But let's don't discount one other thing. She makes a heck of a cup of coffee.
Say, how about some coffee, Venus? I guess we've earned it.
And of course, here is the ejection bay. Now, you'll notice there's no cargo lockers for spacesuits and things like that, because all you need are your trusty oxygen pills. You get in this thing, out you go. Just don't let Zuni get anywhere near the oxygen pills. Oh look, it's the relaxation bay, or the lounge if you want to call it that. All the comforts of home for our crew, but most important, a spectacular coffee pot.
Say, how about that coffee?
Oh, gee, I'm sorry. I'm a tootie.
Folks, I hope you've enjoyed your tour of Space City 2.0. I had a great time making this model. I had a great time taking it to Wonderfest. But as promised, it's time to see if the XL5 can fly. All right, Robert, how about those retros?
Fire retros. Fire retros.
See you, folks.
Fly you round the universe in Fireball XL5. Way out in space together, conquerors of the sky. My heart would be a fireball, a fireball. Every time I gazed into your starry eyes. We'd take the path to Jupiter, and maybe very soon we'd cruise along the Milky Way and land upon the moon. To a wonderland of stardust, we'll zoom our way to Mars. My heart would be a fireball,